World of Warcraft has had a lot of items and content in general that was removed at one point or another. Items that are no longer obtainable are often a pretty rare sight. The rarest of these usually come from the original version of the game, also called Vanilla WoW. The majority of these weapons were removed when the old world was updated in the Cataclysm expansion, while the most notable and often considered the rarest weapons originated from the 40-player Naxxramas raid. The original Naxxramas was removed when the Wrath of the Lich King expansion released almost 15 years ago, so it makes sense that there aren't that many of these today. While still being available in the classic version of the game, these weapons are often considered some of the most rare among the player base, at least in the retail version of the game. What a lot of players don't know is that there are a few weapons that are much more rare, as they were only obtainable during the game's infancy and weren't introduced back into the game when the classic version released. Today we will explore Vanilla WoW's forgotten weapons. The story takes place during the game's early days and will feature 5 different weapons, all incredibly rare to this day, with the last of them probably being the most rare weapon in the game. The first 3 of these are very similar, as they were all ranged weapons awarded for questing in the game's starting zones. These are the Thistlewood Bow, Primitive Bow, and the Light Hunting Rifle. The Thistlewood Bow was awarded to Night Elves for completing the Webwood Venom quest in the Teldrassil zone. The Primitive Bow was awarded to Trolls and Orcs for completing the Vile Familiar quest in Durotar. And the Light Hunting Rifle was awarded to Torrents for completing the Rite of Strength quest in the Mulgore zone. While they were available to any class that could use a bow or a gun, only hunters would really choose them, as the other options were better for other classes. All of these were removed in patch 1.7 because Blizzard wanted to incentivize hunters to use their melee weapons for combat before they got their pet, which at this time would happen at level 10. It's important to keep in mind that during this time, hunters could not attack with their ranged weapon unless they were at least 8 yards away. The 4th weapon that was removed was an axe called the Thistlewood Axe. This two-handed axe was another reward of the Webwood Venom quest in Teldrassil, which required the player to gather 10 Venom Sacks. It was removed in patch 1.8, just one patch later than the hunter weapons, one of which were awarded for the very same quest. Unlike the hunter weapons though, the axe was simply just removed from the quest reward options with no explanation as to why. While there is no official reason for this removal, I believe it was removed because it didn't fit well with the Night Elf race, seeing as they didn't innately have the skill required to use an axe. They would need to travel all the way from Teldrassil to the Weapon Master in Ironforge, which also required the player to be level 10 or higher. This meant that it wasn't a practical reward option for a quest that was designed for players around level 5. The last, and by far the most rare weapon, is the sword called Omensua, which was a reward of the famous Green Hills of Stranglethorn quest, which was located in the Stranglethorn zone. The sword was held in the main hand and had a fairly slow speed of 2.7 seconds as well as 7 stamina. A lot of players, both in the original vanilla and in the classic version of the game, completed the quest while leveling, but nobody seems to remember this being a reward. This is for a good reason, as it was only in the game for a very short while, being introduced at launch on the 23rd of November 2004, and being removed just 25 days later with WoW's very first patch, patch 1.2. For players such as myself who play in Europe, it is completely impossible that I have ever seen a player with this sword in the game. This is because it was removed from the game before the European servers even launched, which happened in patch 1.2.1. The weapon was removed as it was not deemed fitting as a reward. Instead, players who completed the Green Hills of Stranglethorn quest would receive the Jungle Boots, 3 superior healing potions and 2 thick armor kits. Considering that plate items are exclusive to 2 classes of the Alliance and 1 of the Horde, and requires the player to be at least level 40 for a mid-30 quest, it could be debated whether this reward was actually an improvement compared to the old one. But the very few players who managed to get to the Stranglethorn Vale and complete this quest during the game's earliest days would be the owners of what is likely the most rare weapon in the game's history. I hope that you found this video interesting, and thank you for watching.